Amanda, I need to talk to you about my salary reduction, I said, sliding the resignation letter across her mahogany desk. Her face went from smug satisfaction to pure panic in seconds. You see, there's something you don't know about those $30 million in contracts I just secured for you. I'm Emma Foster, and at 34, I thought I'd seen every possible way a company could self-destruct. Then I walked into Pharmatech Solutions on a gray Monday morning in March and realized I was wrong. The pharmaceutical industry had just witnessed one of its biggest scandals in decades. Pharmatech, once a respected player in the medical device sector, was hemorrhaging money after their entire sales division got caught in a bribery scheme that made headlines for weeks. When you're dealing with hospital contracts worth millions, trust isn't just important, it's everything. And Pharmatech had lost all of it. That's where I came in. Amanda Price, the CEO, had tracked me down through 3 different headhunters after hearing about my work at Medcore Industries. She was 42, impeccably dressed, and spoke with the kind of confidence that comes from years of corporate survival. During our first meeting, she painted a picture of desperate circumstances requiring desperate measures. Emma, I'll be honest with you, Amanda said, leaning forward in her corner office that overlooked downtown Chicago. We're basically starting from zero. 50 sales representatives who couldn't sell water in a desert, clients who won't return our calls, and a board of directors who are ready to shut us down if we don't turn this around in 6 months. The numbers were brutal. Monthly revenue had dropped 70%. Client retention was at 15%, meaning 85% of their customers had walked away. The sales team was demoralized, with people updating their LinkedIn profiles during lunch breaks. But here's what excited me about impossible situations. They're only impossible until someone finds the right approach. My background wasn't traditional for a sales trainer. I'd started in psychology, studying human behavior and relationship dynamics, before transitioning into business. This combination gave me a different perspective on sales. Instead of focusing on closing techniques and aggressive tactics, I believed in building genuine connections. The pharmaceutical industry operates on relationships more than almost any other sector. Hospital administrators and procurement managers don't just buy products, they buy trust, reliability, and partnership. When doctors recommend medical devices that could save lives, they need absolute confidence in their suppliers. Amanda seemed to understand this philosophy, at least initially. She nodded enthusiastically when I explained my approach during the interview process. That's exactly what we need, she said. Someone who can rebuild our reputation from the ground up. The contract negotiation went smoothly. My salary was competitive, the benefits were excellent, and there was even a performance bonus structure tied to revenue targets. The only thing that gave me slight pause was the non-compete clause, which was more restrictive than usual, 18 months with broad geographical and industry limitations. But Amanda explained it was standard for someone in my position, and frankly, I was too excited about the challenge to worry about details. My first week at Pharmatech felt like stepping into a morgue. The sales floor, which should have been buzzing with phone calls and meetings, was eerily quiet. Representatives sat at their desks looking defeated, going through the motions of making calls to clients who had stopped taking their meetings months ago. I spent those initial days just listening. I sat with each team member individually, learning their stories, understanding their frustrations, and identifying their strengths. What I discovered was a group of talented professionals who had simply lost confidence in themselves and their company. The real challenge wasn't teaching them how to sell, it was helping them believe they had something worth selling again. But rebuilding 50 careers and restoring client relationships across a multi-state territory would require more than motivational speeches. I needed a systematic approach that addressed every aspect of their professional development, from communication skills to industry knowledge to personal confidence. What I didn't realize was that someone else was watching very carefully, taking notes on every relationship I built and every success I achieved. I started with the fundamentals. Every morning at 7:30, I gathered the entire sales team in the main conference room. While other companies were cutting training budgets, I convinced Amanda to invest in comprehensive development programs. The first month was brutal for everyone involved. I personally shadowed each representative during client calls, taking detailed notes on their communication patterns, technical knowledge gaps, and confidence levels. What I discovered was fascinating. Most of them knew the products inside and out, but they'd forgotten how to connect with people. Sarah Martinez, one of our senior reps, had been with the company for 8 years. During our first one-on-one session, she told me something that stuck with me. "Emma, I used to love this job. I'd wake up excited about helping hospitals find solutions. Now I wake up wondering if anyone will even take my call." That's when I realized the scandal hadn't just damaged Pharmatech's reputation. It had broken something fundamental in my team's professional identity. I developed what I called the Trust Reconstruction Protocol. Instead of jumping straight into sales pitches, we focused on listening, really listening. Each representative learned to ask specific questions about operational challenges, budget constraints, and long-term goals. The AIHA approach was radically different from the aggressive tactics that had gotten the company into trouble. But here's where things got interesting. While I was rebuilding the sales team's confidence, I was also conducting my own relationship-building campaign with clients. Every major account that had dropped Pharmatech received a personal call from me, not a sales call, an apology call. "Dr. Williams," I'd say to hospital administrators, "I know Pharmatech has lost your trust, and I'm not calling to ask for your business back today. I'm calling to understand exactly what went wrong and what we'd need to do differently to earn the right to serve your patients again." This approach was so unusual that many clients agreed to meet with me just out of curiosity. Hospital administrators are used to being pitched to constantly. They're not used to someone asking genuine questions about their challenges without immediately trying to sell them something. During these conversations, something unexpected happened. Clients started sharing problems they hadn't mentioned to anyone: staffing issues, budget pressures, regulatory concerns that kept them awake at night. I took detailed notes on every conversation, not for immediate sales opportunities, but to understand the industry's real pain points. Amanda seemed pleased with my progress reports. "Great work, Emma," she'd say during our weekly meetings. "Keep building those relationships. The board is starting to notice." What Amanda didn't know was that I was building more than professional relationships. I was creating genuine connections. Take Memorial Hospital's procurement director, James Chen. During our first meeting, he mentioned his daughter was starting college and stressed about financing her education. 3 weeks later, when I happened to see an article about scholarship opportunities for students in her field, I sent it to him. No sales pitch attached. Just a helpful resource from one professional to another. These weren't calculated moves. I genuinely cared about these people and their success. But in business, authenticity has a funny way of creating unexpected opportunities. By month 3, the transformation was becoming visible. Representatives who had been making 5 cold calls per day were now making 20 warm calls to contacts who knew and trusted them. Client meetings that used to end with polite rejections were turning into collaborative problem-solving sessions. The breakthrough came during a particularly challenging situation with Regional Medical Center. They had been one of Pharmatech's biggest clients before the scandal, representing nearly $4 million in annual revenue. After the bribery news broke, they not only canceled their contracts, but also issued a public statement distancing themselves from the company. Getting them back seemed impossible, but I'd been having regular conversations with their director of operations, Maria Santos, for 2 months, not sales conversations, just professional check-ins about industry trends and operational challenges. During one of these calls, Maria mentioned they were struggling with a specific issue regarding surgical equipment maintenance. Their current supplier's service team was overwhelmed, causing delays that were affecting patient care schedules. I didn't immediately pitch Pharmatech's services. Instead, I asked detailed questions about their requirements, timeline, and budget constraints. Then I spent 3 days researching the best possible solution, including options from our competitors. When I called Maria back, I presented a comprehensive analysis of 5 different approaches to her problem. 4 of them involved other companies. The 5th was a Pharmatech solution that I genuinely believed was the best fit for their specific needs. "Emma," Maria said after reviewing my recommendations, "in 15 years of dealing with medical suppliers, no one has ever presented me with options that included their competitors. This is exactly the kind of transparency we need." Regional Medical Centers signed a 2-year contract worth $6 million, 50% more than their previous agreement. But more importantly, Maria specifically requested that all future communications go through me personally. This pattern repeated across dozens of accounts. Clients weren't just doing business with Pharmatech. They were doing business with Emma Foster, who happened to work at Pharmatech. The sales numbers started climbing steadily. Month 4 brought in $2 million in new contracts. Month 5 reached $3.5 million. By month 6, we were approaching numbers the company had never achieved, even before the scandal. My team was transformed. Representatives who had been updating their resumes were now mentoring newer hires. The confidence was contagious, and the results spoke for themselves. Amanda's attitude during this period was interesting to observe. She was obviously thrilled about the revenue increase. The board pressure had completely disappeared, and there was even talk of expansion. But I noticed she seemed less comfortable with the client feedback that consistently mentioned my personal involvement. During contract negotiations, clients would say things like, "We're excited to work with Emma's team," or "Please make sure Emma remains our primary contact." These comments seemed to irritate Amanda more than please her. The culmination of my efforts came in month 7. We closed the biggest deal in company history, a $15 million multi-hospital system contract that included ongoing service agreements and equipment upgrades. The client specifically stated they were signing because of their confidence in Pharmatech's new leadership approach under Emma Foster's guidance. That night, I allowed myself to feel genuinely proud. I had taken a company that was essentially dead in the water and turned it into an industry success story. More importantly, I had rebuilt 50 careers and restored trust with clients who now had access to medical equipment that would improve patient outcomes. I expected recognition, perhaps a promotion to vice president of sales, maybe a significant bonus reflecting the unprecedented revenue increase. Instead, I got a meeting request from Amanda for the following Monday morning. The subject line read, "Compensation Adjustment Discussion." That Monday morning felt different as I walked into the office. The sales floor was buzzing with energy. My team was riding high from closing the biggest contracts in company history. Representatives were actually smiling while making calls, and the conference rooms were booked solid with client meetings that people wanted to attend. I knocked on Amanda's office door at exactly 9 o'clock, carrying a folder with detailed analytics of our 7-month turnaround. I'd spent the weekend preparing what I thought would be a promotion discussion, complete with projections for expanding our success model to other divisions. "Emma, please sit down," Amanda said, without looking up from her computer. Her tone was unusually formal, almost cold. "I've been reviewing your compensation package, and we need to make some adjustments." I opened my folder, ready to present the revenue numbers. "Amanda, I'm glad we're having this conversation. The results speak for themselves. $30 million in new contracts, client satisfaction scores at an all-time high, and the sales team performing better than ever." "Yes, well, that brings me to my point," she interrupted, finally making eye contact. "Your current salary structure was based on the assumption that this would be a typical rebuilding process. But what we've discovered is that the success has been more of a collective team effort than we initially projected." The words hit me like a physical blow. I just delivered unprecedented results, and she was diminishing my contribution to a collective team effort. Amanda continued, "After consulting with the board, we've decided to redistribute resources more equitably across the organization. Your new salary will be 50% of your current compensation, effective immediately." For a moment, I couldn't speak. 50%. Half my salary after generating $30 million in revenue for a company that was essentially bankrupt when I arrived. Additionally, Amanda said, gaining momentum, "I'll be presenting the turnaround strategy to the board next month as part of our annual review. The story we're crafting focuses on decisive leadership and systematic organizational improvements rather than individual contributions." That's when everything clicked into place. Amanda wasn't just cutting my salary, she was stealing credit for my work while simultaneously reducing me to an expensive liability. But here's what Amanda didn't know about me. I don't make emotional business decisions. Instead of arguing or expressing outrage, I did something that clearly surprised her. I smiled. "That's an interesting perspective, Amanda. Can I ask you something? When Regional Medical Center calls next week about their expansion project, who are they expecting to speak with?" Her confidence wavered slightly. Well, they'll work with whoever we assign to their account. And when Memorial Hospital's board meeting happens next month, who specifically requested to present the equipment upgrade proposal? Amanda's face was starting to show the first signs of uncertainty. Here's what I realized during our conversation, I said, standing up and placing my resignation letter on her desk. 3 days ago, my non-compete clause expired. You probably forgot about that detail, but I never do. The color drained from her face as she read the first line of my letter. You see, Amanda, while you were watching my work from your office, I was building something you can't redistribute or reassign. I was building trust. Personal, professional relationships with every major client and every top performer on this team. I pulled out my phone and showed her the screen. 15 missed calls since Friday from clients wanting to discuss new projects. 8 text messages from team members asking about opportunities to work together in the future. Interesting timing, don't you think? Amanda was staring at the resignation letter like it was a bomb that had just been placed on her desk. The beautiful thing about authentic relationships, I continued, is that they belong to the person who built them. When clients specifically request Emma's team and top performers ask to follow Emma's leadership, well, that creates some interesting possibilities. I walked toward her office door, then turned back. Oh, and Amanda, good luck explaining to the board next month why $30 million in contracts and your best salespeople all disappeared simultaneously. I'm sure they'll love your presentation about systematic organizational improvements. The door closed behind me with a satisfying click. Within 24 hours, my phone exploded with opportunities I hadn't even imagined. Memorial Hospital's procurement director called first. Emma, we heard through the grapevine that you might be making some career moves. Our hospital system has been discussing bringing consulting services in-house, and your name keeps coming up. By Wednesday, I'd received calls from 7 former clients and 12 sales representatives asking about future collaboration. The pharmaceutical industry is surprisingly small, and word travels fast when someone with a proven track record becomes available. Starting Foster Medical Consulting felt natural, like putting on clothes that actually fit. My first client was Regional Medical Center, offering a 6-month contract worth more than my entire previous annual salary. They wanted me to replicate the relationship-building approach I'd developed at Pharmatech across their entire vendor network. Within 2 weeks, 5 of Pharmatech's top performers had given notice. Sarah Martinez was the first to join me, followed by 3 others who'd been part of our original transformation. They weren't just following me for better opportunities. They were following authentic leadership that had actually invested in their success. The real satisfaction came from watching Amanda's carefully constructed narrative collapse in real time. The board meeting she'd planned to showcase her leadership happened right on schedule. Except by then, Regional Medical Center had canceled their $15 million contract. Memorial Hospital had suspended all new purchases pending consultation availability, and half her sales team had resigned. I later heard from a former colleague that Amanda's presentation lasted exactly 12 minutes before the board started asking uncomfortable questions about client retention and employee turnover. Apparently, it's difficult to take credit for success that walked out the door with the person who actually created it. My LinkedIn post about workplace credit theft received over 50,000 views and 300 comments from professionals sharing similar experiences. The response confirmed what I'd suspected. Amanda's behavior wasn't unique, just unusually blatant. 6 months later, Foster Medical Consulting had 15 clients and a team of 12 consultants. We specialized in relationship-based sales training and authentic leadership development. Our waiting list stretched 4 months, and client testimonials consistently mentioned our genuine approach and trustworthy guidance. Pharmatech's revenue dropped 60% within a year. Amanda was quietly asked to step down after the board discovered her pattern of driving away top talent. The company eventually sold to a competitor for a fraction of its previous value. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's simply building something better, while your former employer explains to stakeholders why their systematic organizational improvements somehow resulted in systematic organizational collapse. Authenticity always wins in the end.